This episode is proudly supported by Anchor Food Professionals. Whether you're a caterer, cafe operator, or chef running a commercial kitchen, everyone knows quality products are the foundation of successful dishes. Anchor Food Professionals is a trusted supplier to the hospitality industry and has built a stellar reputation thanks to their consistently excellent butter, cream, and cheese. As the food service business of Fonterra, Anchor Food Professionals is home to many well-known brands such as Perfect Italiano, Mainland, Western Star, and Bega, and is now an important part of the Australian food service sector. Anchor Food Professionals has a history of innovation and expertise in sustainable dairying that delivers a world-class product portfolio. If quality cheese, cream, and butter are important to your creations, head to anchorfp.com.au to explore the range.
There are a lot of people in our hospitality who live and breathe the same love for the industry I do. So when you see that kind of love and emotion getting shown to the restaurant through food, it is one of the truly an amazing feeling you will ever feel in your life.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. What does it truly mean to source locally? How do you run an ever-changing menu tapping into not only the local seasonal produce available from suppliers, but that of the greater community too? David Lakhi is the chef and co-owner of Little Black Pig and Sons in Melbourne. David, how are you?
Good, thank you, Huck. Yourself?
I'm good, mate. It's good to get you on the show. You're doing some wonderful things there in Melbourne. How are things at the moment?
First of all, thank you for having me on a podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to be talking to you today. Things are going good. So far, so good. Touch wood.
You've got an interesting approach there with the menu at Little Black Pig where, you know, you keep things local, but you're also tapping into the local community that's producing their own sort of goods. What's that like?
When you create a restaurant which is made for the community and they take an ownership in the restaurant, it is the best feeling as a business owner. Because where they will protect you, they will produce the goods for you, and they'll support you through the thick and thin, which is very hard for people to do in a city because over there it's just a numbers game. With us, it's all about looking after the guests as if they are dining in our own dining room at our house.
Tell us some of the connections that you make and some of the sort of produce that gets dropped off for you to use.
Yeah, I'm very big on stories, Huck.
We love them too.
I normally say this as a joke. Sometimes the staff have to rescue the customers from me because I can just sit there and talk to them all night. But as I mentioned, when you make people feel like they're walking into your home instead of just another four walls with some work done to them, and people come around on Monday, Tuesday, we normally close. And I walk in on a Wednesday mornings, there's produce sitting by the door with the note that pretty much decides the menu for you sometimes. People will message me on a days off that they got the produce, could be from the smallest thing like a rosemary or some bay leaves to the game meat they hunted over the weekend, or some of the seafood they caught on their fishing trip, which we have to be very careful, obviously, because recreational fishing is different to commercial fishing and you can get into trouble. So we try to avoid it where we can to get into trouble. But, when customer brings you a whole snapper and they caught a day ago, you have to take it on with a smile and tell a story behind it.
That's amazing. Tell us how it does affect the menu and your approach with the menu every week.
So the menu is very simple. which is one of the hardest things to do because there's no room to hide. It's all seasonal produce driven. I get market reports every week from the suppliers, plus whatever we get delivered from our community around Heidelberg. And from there, it's over the last 20 years, I've learned a lot about produce. I was lucky enough to work under somebody who was big on produce-driven restaurant. And once the produce is, we're lucky enough to have a great produce in this country. And when the produce decides the menu for you, it's one of the greatest feeling around. Not many chefs get to have that feeling because everybody likes to work within a stencil or border of what they can or they want to do. With me, everybody's a guinea pig here. We try a dish. If they don't like it, no worries. We'll improvise on the dish, and that dish may not come back ever again, or will come back bigger and better version of it.
Well, tell us about that creative process, because you're very reliant every week on what's going to be at the door. Do you have some sort of go-to techniques and recipes that are a base, or like how does it work?
We do, our menu style is called cucina povera, which means poor man's cooking or peasant style cooking. Two ingredients, three. People ask me, I was born in India, and every week I get asked this question maybe 10, 20 times, why an Indian cooking Italian food? But where I come from, it's the same. I come from a farmland of India, which is called Punjab. And it's the same process there. We pick a vegetable straight from the farm, and within a couple of hours, it's getting served to you. And same principle here. I've seen my mum over the years cooking, and techniques. You have to keep it simple. At the end of the day, if you're serving a tomato in its peak season in January, February, you have to serve a tomato as it is. You can't serve a tomato turning it upside down and still calling it a tomato when it's lost all its essence and all the ethos behind growing that tomato. So with me, it could be the simplest technique of serving a tomato would be basil, mozzarella, good quality mozzarella from Campania, and fresh tomatoes sliced, and breadcrumbs. That's one of the simplest dish where you showcase each product in its best form, which is tomatoes, fresh, beautiful, freshly picked basil, nicely hand-torn mozzarella from Campania, and freshly made crumbs from a leftover bread a day before.
Amazing. It sounds amazing. It's a great way to eat. I want to go in depth about sort of your food and what you're doing there, and how you ended up cooking Italian food. But you mentioned India. Take us back there and tell us about the region you grew up and what life was like for you.
So I grew up in a small town of Punjab, halfway between Delhi and Pakistan. And every culture with a history has one thing in common, which is we all like to eat food because food brings the family together. All right, so grew up in India, saw my mom, my grandmother, and all the ladies in the neighborhood, getting together, prepping food, or could be picking up green peas, shelling them, making noodles, flipping the terracotta pot upside down on the dome of it, hand rolling the noodles. And at the age of 12, my dad got this solar cooker from somebody, and I was very excited to do something with it. So what do? I put this solar cooker in sunlight. That's how those things work. And I tried to bake a cake in one of those solar cooker. I failed, but let me tell you, I never gave up. I failed a lot of times, but once I succeeded, and that was the first thing I cooked with which you call passive cooking. There's no active involvement from my side. It's all with the sun and the sunlight, and the most successful recipe I had was the caramel. When I was 12 or 13 years old, I made a caramel, and I was running up and down the street as any young kid at the age of 12 would do, forcing everybody to taste it. And and from that point on, I knew what I wanted to be in life. I wanted to become a cook. And when I decided to take a leap of faith by moving to Australia, I was about to turn 19. I turned 19 on the plane to Australia. Bit scary, but I was excited to what future holds. People ask me, "Oh, you had a good family business. Why did you want to go to Australia? Why do you want to come to Australia?" Because I wanted to do something on my own, and cooking was something I really wanted to do from day one. That was the dream, and I am living my dream.
Tell us about what it was like when you first got to Australia and where you got your foot in the door in the industry.
Very daunting, very scary. As anybody will tell you, I'm not the only one who moved here at the age of that. People moved here at the younger age, and it's always scary when you move to a new country by yourself. And I was lucky to get a job very quickly in a restaurant. I wouldn't name the restaurant because there's a story behind it. I was lucky enough to get a job within a week walking into this country, which is very rare. Worked in a restaurant started as a kitchen hand, and one of the chefs showed faith in me. Within a week, they handed me a knife, and they said, "Okay, now you will start doing a prep for us." Had never held a knife before that. Cooking, in a kitchen setting, or any setting. Never held a knife to prep any kind of food, so I had a lot of cuts on my fingers, a lot of bandages everywhere. At the same time, I had to wash dishes. It was painful. You do doubt yourself, like, is it the right decision? But I was very decisive on what I want to do in life and where I want to be at certain stages of my life. But one of the busy nights, I made a small mistake, and one of the chefs made a very bad comment, which was, "Oh, you Indians are only good for doing pot washing," which really hit me hard. And I say, "You know what? No problem." So I picked up my phone next morning. I said, "Thank you very much for the opportunity, but I am not coming back to a kitchen where I get treated like subhuman." At the end of the day, we all humans. But I was even more determined than ever to achieve bigger and better things in life just because of that. And that wasn't the only time I got told that. I applied for jobs at many reputable restaurants around Melbourne, and some of them wouldn't get back to me. Some of them wouldn't just, in early 2000s, it was very hard for an Indian to penetrate in a kitchen, because that wasn't the norm back in the day. So I was set on my pathway how I wanted things to do. So I did my hard yards, did a few jobs here and there, still trying to find a job in the kitchen. I did find a job in a kitchen in a restaurant for 6 months. It was an Indian restaurant. At the same side, I was also being a busboy at the nightclub. So I would finish the kitchen job, go to so I was still actively involved in the industry, but not in a capacity I wanted to be. But hey, everybody has to start from somewhere. And I was lucky enough. I was on a computer one day. I'm like, "Oh, apply for a job," but you never hear back from these people. So I applied for a job around 3 p.m. Got home 3:45. Got a phone call to go in for an interview. And that's how it all started. Got a job working with this amazing woman by the name of Clara Capuzzi. She taught me everything I know to the date. How to treat the produce, trust yourself. Everybody can give you a recipe card, but at the end of the day, it's up to you how you're going to cook that dish. Are you going to be a robot, or are you going to cook like a human from your heart?
Tell us a little bit about Clara and some of the stories of the interactions and things you learnt while you were with her.
A lot of stories there. With Clara, I was one of the very few people to last that long working alongside her. Not that anything was wrong with her. With old school Italians, they don't like lazy people. So the minute they sniff you're a little bit lazy, you're not going to last long. And I was never a lazy one. If you ask me, in the middle of service, jump on top of the oven and start cleaning, I wouldn't hesitate once. I wouldn't question it once. I'll just jump on it, clean it, and get it done. So with them, with the old school Italians, there are no recipes. And that's part of the reason it's very hard for people to work with me at times, because they will ask me, Chef, what's the recipe? I'm like, a bit of that, bit of that, bit of that. Not the way you want to go about in cooking in a commercial kitchen, but now people who work with me for a longer period of time, they understand what I mean by that. And it's exactly what I mentioned to you before. Everybody can give you a recipe card, but what I was taught at school, if you give same ingredients for a pumpkin soup to 10 different people, it will be 10 different versions, 10 different taste versions of that pumpkin soup. So yeah, with Clara, it was all about handmade gnocchi, handmade pasta. All the sauces were made on premises because it was a higher volume restaurant, which is what I'm very grateful for, because it gives you that speed you need in life to be able to cook and handle pressure. She was 74 when I started working with her. She just like me. She moved here from Abruzzo in the early 60s or late 50s. Built herself an empire with a son, and had few restaurants around southeastern suburbs of Melbourne. Took me under her wing, treated me like one of her own, showed me the in and outs of Italian cuisine, and this is a tribute to her, which is what I'm doing today. Every day people ask me, where did you learn how to cook Italian food? And I mention her name at least 100 times a week. It's very easy for people to get carried away and forget where they come from. But you have to pay your dues. You have to show people or tell people how you got to where you are today.
Are there any sort of techniques or dishes that you remember that she shared with you that you now carry on with what you do?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite dishes. She taught me how to cook was pasta ali olio. One of the most simplest dish to create, but one of the hardest thing to put together, because all it is a handmade pasta, garlic, chili, and parsley. Now, with that's something that's something I ask everybody to do, like cook me a meal, because a resume, and you can have 100 years of experience on a resume, but if you don't know how to handle heat in the kitchen, it's all worthless. So one of the dish I eat every Wednesday is pasta ali olio. That's the one she taught me how to cook properly. Because if you don't cook the garlic properly, it sits on your breath and it stinks all day. It doesn't matter how many times you brush your teeth, And so the garlic has to be cooked to a certain degree, and the pasta has to be of certain thickness. And what do you do with the pasta water and all that? What she taught me was, don't stick to orthodox style of cooking. Trust your instinct. If you think it's going to taste good, trust it, taste it, improvise it. which is very hard for people to do.
I'd imagine it would be incredibly hard. How long did it take you to get a grasp of that for yourself and the confidence of that?
I'm still learning today. You never stop learning, but I wanted to create dishes which I would love to eat. That's always been the goal in this restaurant, to give people a sense of luxury, but at the same time, a sense of home-style cooking. All right, so it took me a long, like I would say, when I finished working with that family for 12 years, I finished with them. I was getting to a stage where, like, okay, now I got my wings. I can jump from a cliff and still be able to fly. So, because they showed a lot of faith in me, they gave me the full creative control at one stage of running in the restaurant. Yeah, so they gave me full creative control, which is, it's very hard for some people to do. And that's what I have to do with people who work alongside me in a restaurant, is give them that sense of freedom to express themselves. Could be on the floor with serving the customers, could be in the kitchen. If they say, okay, chef, this is what I think, maybe we should do this. Say, okay, let's try it. And that's what they did to me. Gave me that bit of faith. They showed me a faith in my ability. And I'm a strong believer of, if you don't trust your own self, nobody else will. So I took a leap of faith in my own ability after 12 years of them showing their faith in me, which enabled us to run a restaurant the way we do today.
Tell us a little bit about some of the techniques that you learned with pasta and sort of hand cutting sort of spaghetti only with knives, and, some of the little tricks that you carry on now from your days with Clara.
Yeah. So as I mentioned to you before, unorthodox. You watch thousands and thousands and millions of videos on YouTube or any new cooking platforms. They will tell you to rest the pasta. If we, in a commercial setting, we put the pasta through the pizza dough machine. That's how we knead our pasta. So maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. Everybody tells you to rest the pasta dough for half an hour. But if the pizza dough machine has been doing all the work for you, I don't think you need to rest it anymore, because all the gluten's been stretched to its maximum or relaxed. So what I do is I'll let it sit maybe for 5 minutes. I roll the pasta. They tell you to laminate the pasta 3-4 times, but I like our pasta to be silky smooth. And that's what I learned working with Clara too. And so when the pasta goes through the machine, so it's a hand-rolled machine, I started, people ask me, why don't you use an electronic machine? I said, I don't want to. Because I want to immerse in that when I'm rolling a pasta. I don't want to be disturbed. I don't want to talk to anybody. It's just me and the pasta machine, 3 of us trying to work it out. What's the best result? And it's all about the hand feel, like the feel of the pasta, because all the heat and the dry air in the kitchen can affect, and if the pasta dough has been sitting in the fridge, could also affect the thickness of the pasta. So it's all about feel. And then you roll the pasta through, just feel how you're getting to the thickness, and then how you want to cut it. At the end of the day, it's all about how you want to eat food, and that's what I've learned from Clara. Do not serve somebody something that you will eat.
Being so hands-on and particular about the processes involved, like how does it make you feel when you're making pasta?
It's one of the most incredible feeling. It's peaceful. It can be frustrating at times, because the adjustments on the machine and the pasta dough can behave differently on a different day. But when you see the end product, it's one of the greatest feelings. I call pasta is one of my child when I roll it. That's how much I love rolling the pasta. then the customer gets to enjoy it. That's even a greater feeling because now you can tell a story behind it. We did a birthday dinner for one of our guests who was 90 years old, and she goes to me, Davide, I got a present for you. I'm going to send it with Angela, which is her daughter. So next week I see Angela walking in with this rolling pin, which is called Mattarello. So I use this rolling pin every now and then because it's quite an intense process of rolling a pasta with a rolling pin. But I do roll it every now and then. So I did a birthday dinner for her 4 years later, 7 months ago at their house. And she goes, Davide, you know that rolling pin I gave you? I say, yes. She goes, that was my nonna's.
Wow.
That's been in the family for 160 years. And that lady has more than 8 grandkids who are same age as me. She could have given that rolling pin to anybody. But she decided to pass on that to the restaurant because she believed in what we were doing is really amazing.
How does it make you feel, like that someone doing that for you?
We as chefs or as a restaurant owner, the ultimate goal has always been for every chef to get a chef's hat or get in Europe or Michelin star But when you see people telling you stories, when you see people in your dining room having a little a tear in their eye because that was the dish their nonna used to make or their mother used to make, but they can't anymore because they passed on, and that is one of the greatest feelings you ever achieve in your life. And that's how I get through every single week. I got 4 kids. I barely spend any time with my wife. I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people in our hospitality who live and breathe the same love for the industry I do. So when you see that kind of love and emotion getting shown to the restaurant through food, it is one of the truly an amazing feeling you will ever feel in your life.
Tell us about that period of time when you made the decision to go out on your own and create the restaurant. What was it like, and how did you make that call and land on a location?
So the restaurant has been here for over 8.5 years, and me and my wife, her name is Emilia, we had it together for 7 years now, over 7 years. Looked at a lot of places around Melbourne, but nothing felt the way this one felt. When I walked into this, it felt like, okay, this is home, So when people walk in, they will feel like they're walking into a dining room. It was scary, my wife was pregnant with a 3rd child, so it was all happening at the same time. There were weeks where things weren't going good, like any new business operator out there, they go through the same process. But I admire Thomas Keller from French Laundry. And maybe it's not the same comparison, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I admire what that man has created in America. So I used to tell myself the same thing every day. If Thomas Keller can do it, I can do it. And that thing, I repeat it on a regular basis at least 1,000 times, or even more than that. It's finding yourself and a person who inspires you and using them as an example to push through the hard times. And that's what I did those first few months. Every single day I will keep on telling myself, while I'm driving to work, if Thomas Keller can do it, I can do it. If Thomas Keller can do it, I can do it. And that's something stuck by me. Even nowadays, if a week isn't going the way we like it to be, That's something I repeat to the date. If he can do it, I can do it.
Tell us about the restaurant when you first opened compared to what it is now. Has the sort of evolution and sort of the offering changed a lot over the years?
So it was a really good restaurant before we took over, you know. So the ethos of the restaurant has always been the same. It's always seasonal produce driven restaurant. But one thing we have done over the years, we have developed a very strong connection with the community around here. What does that mean is, the gin is made in 2 kilometers away from where I live. The coffee is roasted within a walk away from my house in Eltham. And the olive oil. So now we have, every time somebody brings us something into the restaurant, their name gets mentioned on the menu. That's a story in itself. And we're trying to tell a story about the ingredient to our customers through an email. We send every 3 weeks. The restaurant has a different feel and over the years we have, renovated the restaurant since 2017. We have renovated the restaurant over, I think, around 3 times now. Made it more intimate, made it more, still keeping the ethos of the restaurant the same, which is produce driven, still a family. You walk into a restaurant and you sense you're walking into our dining room, but elevating the dining room itself. So if you are in Heidelberg, you don't feel like you're sitting in Heidelberg. Giving a people a reason not to travel to city when they can support the local suburban restaurant and still have the same feel.
It's spring at the moment, but we are on the cusp of summer. What's produce like at the moment for you? Is there a dish or two that you've got on right now that you can sort of tell us about that sort of speaks of your approach?
Yeah, we have so there are a couple of dishes. One of them is acciughe pane, which is an anchovies and a bread, char-grilled bread. So I did a dish in 2018. That dish is known as a chiquete, which means snacks. And it's literally a hard-boiled egg with anchovy on top. And every time we did that dish, nobody was interested because it's hard-boiled egg with anchovy, and there's nothing special about it. I took that dish off. That dish is very close to my heart. I took that dish off, and I said, I'm never going to put this dish back on the menu. It never sells. As you learn, trial and error. So 2021, I started playing cricket after my dad passed away. And during the lunch break, in cricket, you eat sandwiches. And one of the sandwich I was eating was an egg sandwich. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is missing something. So I come back to the restaurant after cricket, and I created this dish which is called hard-boiled egg, mixed through with some chives, shallots, mint, and a little bit aioli through it. And it is one of the best dish in my eyes to eat as a snack. But the technique in it is amazing. There's so much happening in the dish, but when you bite into it, the best anchovies to come out of Spain, the egg, got the nice amount of creaminess. Then we got the fennel, caramelized fennel and onion puree with some lemon and dill oil. It's like explosion of flavors in your mouth. But at the same time, it's a kickoff to a great experience and a great meal. And then there's another dish on this week's menu, which is mini tartlets with malulba prawns, spring peas, and couved up asparagus, and caramelized cauliflower puree. That dish, even I was surprised how good that dish was. And I was blown away. Like, wow, this is amazing. Which is, you know, as cooks and chefs, we can be very hard on ourselves, and there's always room for improvement. For me, that was the perfect dish we created in this restaurant. And you got this caramelized cauliflower, you know, with the richness of the butter. Then you got the spring peas, got the crunch in them, which are the asparagus. And then you got the sweetness of the malulba prawns, and we top it up with the black garlic and balsamic gel. It is a truly an amazing dish. I've never tasted anything like that in my life before.
That sounds amazing. A little earlier on, you mentioned the challenges that you faced as a young chef in kitchens. For young chefs out there that might be facing similar challenges in the industry, what sort of advice would you have for them to sort of kickstart their career and push through those challenges?
The biggest advice, everybody's got to learn from their experiences. I can only tell you what I've learned over the last 20 years of cooking. You got to learn, you got to listen. Not everything you will hear will be the right advice, but listen to people who got experience in life and experience in kitchens. Be a sponge. Learn as much as you can. Try to create yourself. Be around people who can push you to be a better person, to be a better cook, who can push you to challenge yourself. But at the same time, don't be okay with any kind of abuse from anybody, because there will be people out there who can't control their temper, so they expect you to be the punching bag. Don't be that person. Stand up for yourself if you need to, but learn as much as you can. Eat as much as you can. Eat at different places as much as you can, and follow somebody who inspires you, and just run with it, and trust yourself.
You've created such an important hub of the community there over many years. What do you love about what you do?
The satisfaction you get when you see a smile you put on somebody's face by creating a beautiful dish or beautiful experience when they walk through this restaurant is one thing I absolutely love. For me, I always say this isn't a job, this is a lifestyle. If you don't immerse yourself into it, if you're not up for the challenge, don't do it. Do something else. That's something I'll look forward, like every morning I wake up, you know, for me, the numbers are important, but the customer satisfaction is the ultimate goal for me in this industry, and that's what keeps me going. And creating a community, I always say this: when you give your guest a sense that they are very important part of this restaurant, and you create a community around your restaurant, they will defend you, they will look after you, they will support you through the thick and thin. And once you've done that, you know, it's amazing feeling.
Well, David, it's an absolute joy and an honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear just a part of your story. Please keep in touch and look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Anthony.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.